There's a train in Switzerland that takes almost 8 hours to travel a distance you could drive in 3. Nobody complains about this. In fact, people fly across entire oceans just to sit inside it and watch mountains go by in slow motion. No highways, no stress, just glass ceilings, panoramic windows, and a landscape so absurd it looks like someone painted it and forgot to make it believable. Somewhere between two small towns most people have never heard of. This railway climbs higher than almost any other in Europe, crosses a bridge so delicate it looks like it shouldn't hold its own weight, let alone a train, and passes so close to glaciers that passengers have reported feeling the temperature actually drop inside the carriage. This isn't a plane ride where you close the shade and sleep through the best part. This is the part. The slowest express train on Earth. Today we're riding what's often called the slowest express train on Earth, and honestly, that name has always felt like a joke that turned out to be true. You're going to feel snow-capped peaks pressing in on both sides. Hear the strange creak of century-old timber bridges beneath the wheels, and understand exactly why engineers spent decades building something most people said was physically impossible. We'll pass through valleys that look completely different depending on the hour, ride alongside rivers the color of glass, and stop in towns so small they don't even have traffic lights. Yet somehow everyone who visits ends up talking about them for years afterward. There's one stretch of track coming up where the entire train goes almost silent, and once you see why, you'll understand exactly why that happens. Zermatt, where silence meets the Matterhorn. You start in Zermatt, a town that banned combustion engine cars decades before anyone else thought that was a reasonable idea. Step off your first train here and the air hits you immediately. Thin, cold, and strangely clean, like breathing through something that's been filtered by the mountains themselves. Electric taxis hum past instead of engines roaring, and horse-drawn carriages still clip along cobblestone streets carrying luggage for guests who arrived expecting exactly this kind of quiet. Look up, and there it is, the Matterhorn. That impossibly sharp pyramid of rock that somehow looks fake even when you're staring directly at it. Its peak usually wrapped in a thin scarf of cloud no matter what the weather's doing everywhere else. Locals will tell you the mountain creates its own weather system, and after watching clouds form out of nothing around that summit for even 20 minutes, you'll believe them completely. Aboard the Glacier Express, this is where the real journey begins. Aboard what's known as the Glacier Express, a red train with oversized windows curving up into the ceiling, so you can actually see the peaks towering above you without craning your neck. The seats are wide, almost like something from a different era of travel, back when getting somewhere mattered less than experiencing how you got there. A server walks through offering fondue melted right there in the carriage, the smell of Gruyere and white wine drifting through the cabin while glaciers slide past the window like something out of a dream you're not entirely sure is real. And here's a detail that surprises almost everyone hearing about it for the first time. This train has no fixed dining schedule tied to a kitchen car, with limited capacity the way older trains do. Meals are timed to specific scenic points along the route, so the chefs actually know exactly which mountain you'll be passing while you're eating your main course. Crossing the Oberalp Pass, the train climbs slowly toward the Oberalp Pass, and this is where things get genuinely strange in the best possible way. At over 60,600 feet, this is the highest point on the entire route, and depending on the season, snow can be piled higher than the train windows even in early summer. Passengers who've done this ride dozens of times still lean toward the glass at this exact point, because the pass marks something invisible but significant. The watershed line where rivers on one side eventually flow toward the Mediterranean Sea, and rivers on the other side flow all the way to the North Sea, separated by nothing more than a few feet of mountain ridge. Standing there, or rather sitting there, watching two entirely different water systems begin their journeys, just meters apart, is the kind of thing that makes you go quiet without meaning to. The Rhine Gorge and the Landwasser Viaduct, but that's only the beginning of what this railway has hidden along its route. Just past the pass, the train begins its slow descent toward the Rhine Gorge, a canyon so dramatic locals nicknamed it Switzerland's Grand Canyon. Though honestly, comparing it to anything else almost undersells it. Pale limestone cliffs rise on either side, carved over thousands of years by glacial meltwater. The river below shifting from milky white to turquoise depending on how the light hits the mineral sediment suspended in it. Hiking trails wind along the canyon rim for travelers who want to experience it from above instead of from the train. And if you time it right, early morning fog settles into the gorge, like something poured from a bottle, burning off slowly as the sun climbs higher, revealing the canyon in stages instead of all at once. Just when you think the scenery couldn't possibly top itself, the train reaches the Landwasser Viaduct, And this is the moment almost every traveler films on their phone, even people who swore they wouldn't. Picture a curved limestone bridge, 6 massive arches stretching across a valley with absolutely nothing beneath except open air. And a drop that makes your stomach tighten just looking at photos of it, let alone crossing it. The train doesn't slow down. It curves directly into a tunnel carved straight into a cliff face on the other side, appearing to vanish into solid rock seconds after crossing empty space above the valley floor. Engineers built this in 1902, without modern machinery, using techniques that still leave structural engineers today shaking their heads in something close to disbelief. There's a local legend, probably more folklore than fact, claiming the original builders tossed a coin off the bridge during construction as an offering to the valley spirits, hoping the structure would hold. It's still standing well over a century later, so maybe it worked. Arrival in St. Moritz, the train eventually rolls into St. Moritz, and the entire atmosphere shifts the moment you step off. This isn't a quiet mountain village anymore. This is where European royalty has vacationed for over 150 years, where the world's first electric streetlight outside a laboratory was installed back in 1878, purely to impress wealthy guests staying at one particular hotel. Walk along the lake in winter and you might catch horses racing directly across the frozen surface during white turf, a genuinely strange and thrilling event locals treat with the same seriousness other countries reserve for their biggest sporting championships, complete with polo matches and even cricket tournaments played on solid ice. Spectators wrapped in fur coats sipping mulled wine while jockeys thunder across a lake that would normally have you swimming in it during warmer months. In summer, that same lake turns a deep, almost impossible blue, mountains reflecting perfectly on its still surface early in the morning before wind picks up and breaks the illusion into ripples. Journeys like this remind you that travel doesn't always require rushing toward a destination as fast as possible. Sometimes the entire point is slowing down enough to actually notice everything in between. The glaciers, the bridges, the tiny towns nobody photographs, the quiet moments when an entire train car goes silent, because everyone's looking at the same impossible view at once. The Swiss Alps have a way of making you feel small in the best possible sense, reminding you how much beauty exists in places most people fly straight over without a second thought. If this journey inspired you, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, and tell us in the comments which destination you're adding to your bucket list.